There are many advantages to being a sole trader and running your business as an individual. Many of those advantages are not necessarily aware to those people that go into business, and by default, many of them go down a corporate route and form a company when actually that's not the best thing to do. That can land them in hot water, increase tax compliance, paying more tax than they need to, and effectively a noose around their business neck. In future I Hate Numbers videos, I'm going to be talking about limited companies in specific reference to that structure and when it's a good idea. But for this video, I'm going to focus on the advantages of being a sole trader, of which there are many. I will also mention, as an aside, some of the drawbacks to that, but the focus is on the advantages. Hi folks, my name is Mahmood. I'm an accountant of 28 plus years and a business finance coach. And for over the last 28 plus years, I've helped thousands of business owners like yourself make more money, improve their financial awareness and their financial literacy, help them win more battles than they lose with what goes on between the ears, reduce their tax burden, save time, and have the business life they aspire to. That's not a bad combo if you ask me. Let's crack on with the video. One of the advantages of being a sole trader business, and I have myself run a sole trader business for quite a number of years. I run two businesses and I've had a sole trader business that's run side by side the limited company. One of the advantages is the relative ease of getting started. There's no compliance, there's not much paperwork. The only registration that certainly in the UK we have to worry about as being a sole trader is registering our business with HMRC. Timeline, by the way, for doing that is typically the second tax year after we start. So the second tax year by October, you register with HMRC and the process is relatively light touch. It takes about 10 to 20 minutes of your time to complete the form online. By all means, contact us if you have any problems with that. But first of all, the registration process is quite straightforward. It's quite simple. There's no legalities in terms of having to fill in other paperwork, and that's it. So for its ease and simplicity, getting going is certainly something to recommend itself. In line with that, a sole trader is in legal terms the person who runs that business, the proprietor, if you want a bit of jargon there, and the business are one of the same in legal terms. So what that means is there's not much paperwork to complete, not much compliance to operate there as well. Now, the second advantage is the privacy. Now, for some people, they may not necessarily want to disclose any financial data to the outside world. And by the way, folks, you always have to disclose that information in summary form to HMRC, but outside of that, nobody has a legal right to actually look at your information, and you can keep that to yourself. So if you're concerned about confidentiality of what's going on in your business, then there's no need to file accounts as you would do for a company. So that privacy, that confidentiality is certainly part of the positive part of that business toolbox. The third reason is effectively the flexibility. So when we operate as a sole trader, the tax burden that falls on us is based on the business profits that we generate. We can, for example, also use our business to finance things like our mobile phones, to buy items that might have a personal nature, and it doesn't create any additional tax burden by way of benefits in kind and the like. Main reason for that is, in legal terms, the proprietor of the sole trader business, effectively what I would call the owner, using that as a very loose term, not in its legal sense here, is not recognised in law as an employee. And therefore, any monies that the proprietor withdraws for their own personal use, any monies they expense on items that might be used for partly for business and personal, does not create any benefit in kind charge, and therefore that's obviously going to be a positive aspect as well. The other thing is, in the early stages of your business life, there may be times as you're setting up, as you're incurring costs, more so than your revenue, you may incur losses. Now, that's not something we aspire to do, but it happens. It's an inevitable part of business life that in the early stages, or if not, if you're pivoting, that you're going to be spending more than you're going to be generated by way of revenue. If there is a tax loss that is created, that is much more flexible to use and beneficial to a sole proprietor than it would be for a company. And the reason for that is as follows. When I started my own businesses 28 plus years ago, I transitioned from the world of work. I had been in employment. I was generating income and I had my tax deducted under PAYE. In the early stages of my business, as I was setting it up, I incurred losses because of the nature of the investments I was making. The nature of the pattern of building up sales was very slow, and therefore I had losses in my business. Now, that wasn't something I was seeking to do, but what it meant from a tax perspective, those losses could be used to generate tax refunds. I could use those losses effectively against anything else I had in that year and also carry back. Watch out for a future episode, by the way, folks, which we're going to dive deeper into loss relief. But the loss relief regime for a sole trader is much more powerful and much more flexible than it would be for a company. And there is the potential of getting refunds, money coming back into your account, which is always going to be good news. Another reason for a sole trader business is if you're not quite sure what's going to be happening with your business, whether you're going to be taking on staff, whether you're going to be exposed to a degree of risk, what's going to happen in the future, you can start as a sole trader. It's nice and simple. And if you decide you want to convert to a limited company, then that process, that procedure is relatively straightforward. Obviously, if you know what you're doing and you have access to good support. So again, advice that we give to a lot of clients is when they're not quite sure what their sales line is going to look like, what's going to happen, how the business is going to develop over the next few months, is to start life as a sole trader and then monitor it, review that, and then migrate and transform into a limited company at some point in the future. And that's relatively straightforward to do if you know what you're doing, and the processes are there, and that gives you flexibility. Now, it's worth mentioning, by the way, folks, is that there are grounds that you might want to be a limited company straight away. I'm just going to mention those in passing. So if you are going to encounter a great degree of risk by the nature of the work that you're involved in, taking on projects that might expose you financially and otherwise, then a limited company route may be the best for you. The other main reason, perhaps, is when you're a sole trader and your profits are starting to go up. As a sole trader, you will be liable to tax on all the profits that you generate, irrespective of whether you spend those profits or whether you leave those profits in the bank account. Now, once you get to that magic sweet spot of around about £25,000 a year, then it's certainly worthwhile looking at a corporate structure, perhaps to minimise the overall tax burden for yourself. By the way, folks, if you want to check out our website, check out the resources page on I Hate Numbers, we have an online calculator which for 23-24 will illustrate the differences between a sole trader business and a limited company, and I suggest that you want to check that out. So tax, again, if your tax is going to be relatively modest, and remember your profits are the thing that drives the tax burden, but if your profits are around about 20-25,000 a year, then it doesn't make much sense normally to go down a limited company route, and therefore being a sole trader is a good model. In conclusion, folks, I would certainly suggest, in my experience here, some people are very snobbish about self-employed people, sole traders. They think they're lesser businesses, which is completely ridiculous. Lots of businesses that I've come across that run as sole traders are very successful. They set their stall out, they do very well. There's a good degree of flexibility. They are proper businesses. They engage staff, they engage freelancers, they buy goods, they buy services. But again, the default mechanism for a lot of people, unfortunately, is to go down a limited company structure route, which isn't always the best thing to do. So let's summarize what we've got. We've got the simplicity, we've got the ease of setting up very quickly, we've got the minimal compliance regime that we have as a sole trader, we've got the ability to use losses in a much more powerful way than we have compared to a company route, and we've got that ability that if circumstances change, we can migrate into a limited company in relatively straightforward terms, as long as you've got access to support and you know what you're doing. So folks, I hope you found this video of some use. If you've got any feedback or any comments, I'd love to hear what they are. Are you a sole trader business? How have you found it? How have you found people's reaction to you being a sole trader business itself? If you feel that this video has been of benefit, I'd love it if you could obviously comment, share with those you feel will benefit from it as well. And until next week, folks, I'll see you on the other side.